Here's the lights. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're ready to begin this evening's board meeting. The school board meeting January 9th, 2019 is now called to order. The time is 6:01 p.m. At this time, we request that all electronic devices be put in the silent mode. And also, we ask that you please refrain from using flash photography. We would like to take this opportunity to remind the members of the public of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student achieves his or her highest personal potential, and the district's vision to be a world-class school system. This evening's student representative from the School Board Student Advisory Committee is Carla Sanchez, sitting down to my right. She's a 7th grader at Veterans Park Academy for the Arts. Her passion is in the arts, especially singing, dancing, and acting, where she has participated in competitions and various performances. Carla's free time is spent reading adventure and mystery novels. She's currently learning how to bake by watching videos and reading recipes online. We'll have a bake-off at the end of this. Carla is in the Honors Council and has been in the club since she was in 4th grade. Now she is in Middle School Honors Council and also enjoys helping out at her school, volunteering for events, and aiding the community. Elections are coming up for the Honor Council, and Carla would like to run for president. Good luck with that. In the future, she hopes to continue helping out in her school and community and to carry that into high school. Eventually, she hopes to start her own, and I'm going to change this. You have little bakery. I'm just going to say large bakery and have a farm. So you've got all the things you need for your bakery. Welcome, Carla. Can we welcome her? Okay, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. This evening's agenda includes the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance, one acknowledgement, public comment, consent items, consent action items, which include 2 items under executive services, 2 items under academic services, 4 items under business services, 1 item under human resources, as well as 1 item under operations, and 4 items under other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, Ms. Fisher has moved, and a second by Ms. Giovanelli. Please record your vote. And while we're waiting for paint to dry, I just want to tell the audience, this is a little bit of a slow process. It will come up, and we have all yeas, so it is passed. Ms. Patrica, will you deliver the invocation, after which Ms. Fisher will lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the invocation.
Lord, as we enter 2019, I am asking you to help our students succeed. You are the dream maker, the cultivator, and the fulfiller of all worthy dreams. You have been the designer of our students' plans all along, and it is you who will make them successful. Help them to focus on their schoolwork, to listen carefully and show respect for their teachers, and to receive correction well in all areas. Help them recognize that they are more than students. They are lifelong learners and your ambassador on missions wherever they go. Refine their abilities, hone their character, and help them choose wisely in areas of study that will make their life work successful. Keep them organized and free of distractions so they can focus on school. Help them to honor you in their friendships at school and to be ready to lend a hand when others are struggling in their studies or in their lives. Help them sow seeds of kindness, excellence, and honesty. If their faith is challenged, give them courage to stand for you, no matter what the consequences. When anxious thoughts or fear of failure threaten to overtake them, I pray they will rest in you and your promise of success. Only you know what that success really means, but when you are on their side, they cannot fail. Amen.
The cadet presenting the national colors tonight will be introduced by Command Sergeant Major retired Sergio L. Ortega, Army instructor of the JROTC program at Cypress Lake High School. Command Sergeant Major Ortega retired after 30 years of active duty service and is a veteran of our Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. Welcome.
Thank you. The national colors for our Pledge of Allegiance tonight are presented by Cadet First Sergeant Carla de Oliveira of the Panther Battalion Junior ROTC program. Cadet de Oliveira is a junior with an academic GPA of 3.90. She is actively involved in the JROTC program color guard, drill, exhibition, and raider teams. Upon graduation, Cadet de Oliveira wants to attend Florida Southwestern University ROTC program and become an officer in the United States Army Medical Corps. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Okay, at this time, our student representative, Carla Sanchez, will present the character education word and design for January. Carla?
The character word for January is commitment. Binding yourself to a course of action despite obstacles. Quote, commitment is what transfers a promise into reality. Abraham Lincoln. The design you see displayed was created by Jared Pocklington, a 10th grade student from Fort Myers High School.
Thank you. Very well done. We have no recognitions tonight, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public comment. Mr. Dodick, please address the agenda item of public comment.
Sure. School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on the meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a card, and I know there's 2 other people, I think, completing them, and submitted it to me before the meeting began, you will be called in the order of the cards submitted. If you did not submit a card but will still wish to address the board this evening, Ms. Gittens, the board chair, will give you an opportunity in a moment to express that desire. The rules concerning public comment are posted at the back of the room. Speakers and those attending the meeting are expected to act in a respectful manner. Attacks on individuals or abusive comments are prohibited. Time per speaker is 3 minutes. Madam Chair, I currently have 6 cards, now 7. So I have 7 cards.
Okay. Before calling on the blue card requests, can I ask if anyone that did not fill out a blue card, raise your hand? Okay.
She has one.
All right, she has it, and make sure that after you speak.
Yeah, we'll get
give
her
it
card
to
now. Okay. So we have 8
Do you need her to
cards.
state her name now, or she's?
I'll get it off the card.
Okay. Anyone else that has not done a card? Okay. Okay, Mr. Dodick, you can call
Sure.
the blue cards.
First speaker, Arlene Feddo.
Thank you. And first, I want to thank you for your service to this community. I'm here today because of a recommendation and comment made at the last board meeting. I was so struck by the action put forth to ask the attorney to look into a school policy for requiring students to remove their caps at graduation during the anthem and the comment that followed. If my memory serves me correctly, I have not yet attended a graduation where caps were removed, and it's embarrassing to me. When I heard this, I literally stopped in my tracks, and my only thought was this: priorities, priorities, priorities. Let me tell you what is embarrassing to me as a parent of daughters who attended public school here in Lee County and as a person with several teacher friends. It is embarrassing to me that teacher turnover is so high, that rents are so high, excuse me, that teachers cannot afford to live here and leave the area, that my amazing teacher professional friends with master's degrees and incredible experience have second jobs because salaries are not competitive, that they're constantly having to ask the parents to give school supplies and support materials to help in the classroom. And I watched my daughters play sports with incredible coaching and assistant coaching and fantastic teachers, and watched them on stage being supported by music and theater professionals who build programs on little to no funding, and then watch the revolving door as those teachers leave. And another quote, "For me, it's patriotism," she said. "It's pride, and we've got to be teaching our students these things," unquote. Let me be very clear. Patriotism is not a policy. Patriotism is lived civic action. If the priority of this board is student success, this proposed policy and tax dollars we are using to look into what has already been addressed by the courts in a 1943 landmark case is missing the mark. Even if you adjust the language for optional use, why do this? How about this? If you want civic engagement, which is the value behind patriotism, support and expanded programs and civil discourse, American history, the Constitution, the amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Civil Rights Movement, the Supreme Court, and the U.S. government. Instead of a fake policy, can you invest in the debate clubs in the schools or mock trial, or send them to Washington, D.C. or to Tallahassee? I ask this board to fight for the priorities of this district. Parents and teachers and students are depending on you to spend more time on the practical solutions and not a policy that frankly has no direct bearing on student success. Please be bold and stand up to this window-covering attempt to check off the patriotism box for the school district. As a daughter of a Vietnam veteran and with others in my family who have served this country, I understand patriotism, and I can guarantee you that the parents and families at graduation are thinking about their sons and daughters, the future, and the joy of accomplishment. I'm willing to bet that none of the parents at graduation are leaving these ceremonies embarrassed. And again, I thank you for your service to this community.
Paul Dengler.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. I'm Paul Dengler, and I am the chair of the Arts Department at Veterans Park Academy for the Arts. We are a K through 8th grade art school in Lehigh Acres. And I also serve as the photography, television production, and yearbook teacher. I have been a teacher at Veterans Park for the past 10 years. And in this time, I've seen my school's student population grow from approximately 1,100 students to its current enrollment of approximately 1,750 students, a 62% increase over the last 10 years. During my tenure, Veterans Park has consistently been the most requested school by parents in the East Zone. Every year there is a waiting list for spots to open, and every year that list gets longer and longer. So why is that? And I believe that arts is part of the answer. We provide a way for students to express themselves and excel through course offerings in art, dance, chorus, drama, band, percussion, piano, strings, stage design and construction, guitar, orchestra, TV production, yearbook, photography, agriculture, robotics, and web design. Veterans Park not only offers these courses, but teaches depth in these courses by offering beginning, intermediate, and advanced levels in most of the disciplines I just mentioned. Our kindergarten through 5th grade students have exposure to art, chorus, theater, dance, and percussion classes as well, which prepare them well for art classes when they make it up to middle school. Not every student is a STEM candidate or bound for a team sport. Veterans Park offers those students a chance to discover and excel in a variety of arts-based courses. I have seen firsthand how this exposure builds confidence and boosts self-esteem. I have seen how this newly found self-confidence transfers to their other classwork and their grades in a positive and lasting way. The competitions and performances our students develop and play for provide the same structure, practice, and discipline that is required of team sports. Arts means taking a risk, developing an idea, collaborating with peers, being open and adaptable to change, being willing to self-critique in order to make necessary changes to become better at what they do. These are many of the attributes that employers look for in new hires. The benefits arts plays in increased academic ability and attendance has a direct correlation to increased test scores, graduation rates, and success in higher education, especially for at-risk youth. School art budgets have been dramatically slashed nationwide for decades. I am asking you to take action and use some of the half-penny tax increase to increase funding for the arts district-wide. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. Don't just take my word for it.
Sir, I'm sorry, your time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Marvin Getz.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Atkins. I'm here today to present some concerns that substitute teachers and some regular teachers, full-time teachers, have as well. One, the substitutes are wondering why we have not been trained yet in a shooter in the classroom. We know the regular teachers are being trained or have been already trained since Parkland. But no subs, as of now, have been trained yet, and we would like to see them trained. Number two, there was an article in the news press the other day, and I didn't quite understand it. So maybe you can enlighten me on it. They had said that there was a section in each classroom where we would put children safe from harm from a shooter, and that area was marked off in the classroom. I don't know of any areas. Are we marking it off? If so, do the teachers know, or do I know? Or do subs know? So I'm not sure. And finally, if I'm concerned with the fact that we might consider arming teachers. I'm opposed to arming teachers. We are educators. We are not gun-toting Westerners, all right? And if we do go that route, which I hope we will not, will you prepare to arm substitutes as well? We have many subs who are hunters and so forth. Just because you can shoot a gun and kill a deer doesn't make you a person who can shoot another person to death. And then finally, last month in the Wall Street Journal, there was a article in which it says, teachers are quitting the ranks, quitting their jobs faster than you can record, and even faster across the nation, nationwide. And that's true. And I see the same thing happening with substitutes, that they do not want to take certain jobs. They're afraid, well, can they be shot as well? Because we have had them shot in the past. So I'd like to recommend maybe a couple of points that we should consider. We need to restore teaching assistants. Teachers are in need of them, especially with slow and at-need children. We need to have training in trauma-informed training. We need to reinstate the charter cap, and I think we've got one of our congressmen in Florida that's trying to change that, and I hope we follow through. And then we need to pay teachers well as substitutes well. I thank you.
Samuel Stewart.
And good evening and Happy New Year. I am Sam Stewart. I am a retired resident of the community. I've been here 5 years now. Prior to that, I was superintendent of schools in New Jersey for over 30 years. The last 5 as executive county superintendent in Mercer and Middlesex counties. And first, I want to compliment you. I have been coming to Fort Myers since the late 80s. And I always pay attention to schools. During vacation, and my wife and mother-in-law gave me a hard time on this. I used to watch your board meetings. And so I have some perspective, albeit limited, on your progress. And I want to report you have gotten so much better. So much better. I watched YouTube this afternoon, and I watched your meeting, and I thought it was a terrific workshop. And so I want to compliment you. I also wanted to congratulate Dr. Pruitt, if she's still here, on receiving that honor from her professional organization and for improving the retention rate of teachers. And I also believe that you have an outstanding superintendent of schools. I enjoyed and admired his work and the way he relates to people during the referendum. He really is very, very special. If he weren't so attached to this community, I know where he can make more money and have responsibility for fewer students.
Can we cut his mic, please?
So,
In 5.
so you have 3, I'll hurry. 3, a good board of education, you have excellent assets, reasons to be proud. Excellent board, excellent superintendent, and a strong administrative team. My concern has to do with external threat. How the state government and state politicians erode support for the district, especially financial. And I'll mention just 2 quickly. One is that I learned that during the recession, $500 million was taken away from the district and never returned. Now, when you lower the base, everything in the future remains lower. The second was more recent with the security aid. You know, the governor and other state politicians bragged about having $500 million out there for safety officers, SROs. Well, when it came to Lee County, the total cost was $11.3 million. The state gave $4.5 million. $4.5 million from the state.
Sir, your time's expired.
And
Mr. Stevens.
so anyway, I just want to help alert the community
Sir.
to this situation.
Okay, you're good. You're welcome. Tyler Woodby.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak. Now, I've been a resident of Lee County my entire life. I've gone through the Lee County schools, and I can tell you, the schools are not as good as you all tout. The only reason I graduated in my 2013 year is because the standards were lowered. And I can also tell you, that's the same reason for more than half of my graduation class. That is not a good thing. Lowering the budgets is no excuse for lowering standards. And I was just recently, as of last year, working at a school here in Lake County. And I struck up a conversation with many of my fellow instructors. Many of them did not even know who Homer was. So, Homer was once a cornerstone of an enlightened education. So I do not understand how an educator could not know who Homer was. Furthermore, we also have instructors speaking Ebonics to their students. I don't see how these people could have become educators. That is all.
Thank you. Anthony Thomas.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the school board. My name is Anthony Thomas. I want to first report that the trip to Washington, D.C. and Tallahassee was extremely successful. I'm very grateful that Melissa Giovanelli from District 2 joined the students in Tallahassee. They had an opportunity to have a meeting with Kathleen Pasadomo, the majority leader, and express themselves. They also were able to meet with all the local legislative delegation in the Capitol Rotunda and express their issues of concern to them. So both trips were very successful. We took students from Lee and Collier County, and we're very pleased with the results. I've lived in Lee County my whole life. I went through the education system here, born and raised here in Fort Myers. I got to tell you, as somebody who has been actively involved with the Lee County School District since I graduated Fort Myers High School in 2002, I have never seen a school district in such fire as it is right now. I can tell you, as you talk to the teachers, administrators, the principals, everybody is talking about the dysfunction of the Atkins administration. I've seen many superintendents going back to Bruce Harder. I have never seen a more dysfunctional superintendent in his office as I've seen so far under Atkins administration. If you were running a corporation, which you all are, and you were evaluating the superintendent's performance, you would look and say, okay, what is the retention of his administrators? Look at the retention rate of our administrators. We have people leaving every day, high-ranking administrators. We currently have no African Americans in the superintendent cabinet. Cody's gone, Law's been demoted. Everything that, you know, he makes an agreement with the NAACP. The agreement on the face of it is so silly. The same people who discriminated against the minority community, who treated children of color differently than white children, they were told, and they had a press conference with the superintendent at, of all places, at Dunbar High School, and they were told by the NAACP, when I talked to the members, they were outraged by the NAACP president trying to get on television and making what I thought and what many people in the community would say is a silly deal. The same people who discriminated and treated our children differently, not one person was held accountable by Atkins administration. We see a pattern here. The pattern is you screw up at Bonita High School, no one held accountable. You force Reggie Snell out, nobody held accountable. The people who really made the decisions are still here. Mary Fisher, I'm calling on you. You're my friend. I've known you a long time. You got Nancy, you got Burke, you talk to them, you say, hey, it's time to go. I earnestly beseech you to have a conversation with Greg Atkins. I believe it is time for new leadership in this school district. I agree with Melissa Giovanelli's email to the board. I too have lost confidence in this administration. I think there are a lot of other people have as well. Thank you very much.
Jerry Ware.
Happy New Year to all of you. And on a positive note, I'd like to say to you, thank you so much. When I heard the news that something was being done about the behavior, you know, I've been up here advocating and advocating. When I looked at the definition of your word tonight, commitment, you know that I'm very, very much committed to the children, all of the children. But I was so pleased to hear on the news yesterday and today that we now have behavioral specialists, that we now have some action with solace care. I was a little bit concerned about the number, which might not be accurate because the news media always gives some fake news, but I hope this is not fake news about the plan in its entirety. However, I'm hoping that you will have more behavioral specialists, especially for those BI schools, because that's where they're very, very much needed. And that's all I have to say to you tonight. I'm not going to be negative, because this year is mine for positivity, and I'm going to promote, and say to you, you do the same. Put your feet to the grinder. You've got much to do. We have got to help our children. And you know I'm a nurse, so I want to be advocating for behavioral children with behavior issues. Thank you, and I support you all as best that I can. Thank you.
Patricia Sala.
To the school board members and Dr. Atkins. My name is Patricia Sala. I serve on one of the advisory committees, and today first of all, I want to tell you how much I've enjoyed it in the past year and a half that I've been a part of that. But I also wanted to bring to your attention, sometimes we face some challenges that I think you can help us with. There is so much information that's disseminated to our committee. While it's very interesting to learn all of it, it can make it very difficult for us to have time to discuss it and take action. So last year, I'm aware of 2 opportunities that our committee had to even make, where we had the time to make a recommendation to the board. And we've gotten halfway through the year, and because of all of the wonderful presentations we're getting, and they're vast, there's so much information, I'm hoping that you can help or maybe assess the effectiveness of how information is shared with the committees. I'm not sure if other committees have this challenge, but ours certainly does. So I'm simply here today to ask if you as leaders can take a look at the process from your side of it so that you can help us, because we're so willing and committed to making the appropriate recommendations to the board. We just need to be given that a lot of that time to do it. So thank you.
That's it.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Feta, thank you very much for your comments. Is she still here? Okay. All right, thank you for your comments. And I suggest that if you have, written suggestions, that you can always send them to us in email. If you have, suggestions as to what you would like to see going forward. Mr. Dangler, is it Dangler? Yes. Okay. I believe that I speak for all of the board members in the fact that the arts are really, really important in our district. And Superintendent, I'm going to ask you, isn't there a section in our strategic plan about the arts, or is it in there? Anything about?
I believe so. But
I thought that there was.
Yeah, we have Envision 2030, so we have a number of goals in there, but there are some that are focused on academic programs, and I can assure you that we have remained very strong as it relates to the arts and arts funding as a board. I'm sure it will continue with this current board. And just to mention Veterans Park, I have to echo that. I was in the East Zone for a while, and so I've been watching Veterans Park for a long time. And Veterans Park is one of those outstanding schools. It's a real gem out in Lehigh, and they offer incredible programs for kids and in a wonderful setting. So I'm sure with what he says, I've watched that school always be a top pick out there. And so he certainly hit the nail on the head with respect to that school.
And please make sure if you have events or performances to invite us. I live 10 minutes from there, and I'd love to attend some as well. Okay. Mr. Getz, on the substitutes, I would suggest if you could maybe forward those items to us, then if there's anything that we can do to help make any changes, then we'll definitely look at that with staff. Mr. Stewart, you are a wealth of information to have in our community. Thank you for your compliments and support. You mentioned the state government taking finances and that type of thing from us. We have started and continuing, I should say, the process of working with the legislators, both local and at state level. And we had, I think, what was it, 2 weeks ago or so, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we did have our first workshop with some of the legislators, and opening up that communication and talking about what we can do. We're also looking at doing some workshops with the local legislators as well, so you can keep aware of that. Tyler, Mr. Woodby, okay, thank you for speaking. And I will say I'm glad that you did graduate and that you are working as hard as you are in the community right now. When you mention the Bonics, and I understand what you mean, where you're coming from with that. I think sometimes educators will try to relate to a student in the best way that they can, and sometimes maybe they shouldn't in that particular way. But I, as a previous teacher, have noticed some teachers doing that as well to kind of relate to students. So,
Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not, sorry, it's not a back
Sorry,
and
I
forth.
can't, have a conversation with you, but I can speak with you afterwards, or maybe contacting our academic department to talk to them about that type of thing as well. Okay, thank you. Mr. Thomas, thank you so much for taking our students, and Ms. Giovanelli may mention that in her comments. I sent, I think, 4 students from our area, and they all had a wonderful time, and it broadened their horizons. And anytime that we can do that to expand the knowledge of our students, it's a wonderful thing to do. Ms. Ware, behavioral specialists, and then the psychological and mental side of things is very, very important, as we all know, and it is definitely on our strategic plan and on our radar to continue enhancing those programs in our schools. And thank you for your support as well. Ms. Sola, and you mentioned about having too much information and taking away from the ability of the advisory boards to come to consensus on things that might help us. And perhaps at your next, who does, Ms. Jordan is the liaison. So perhaps a discussion with her as well. And at the next meeting, maybe the two of you can present something to that effect to let the members know how it is affecting the outcome of the committee to have so much outside information to come in, because there's a balance there somewhere. And I believe that's everyone.
Madam Chair, also, I'll have
yes.
a conversation with Jared Eady regarding that as well. He's the staff liaison.
Right,
to
he's the
Eady.
liaison. So maybe the three, because if Ms. Sala was in on the conversation, then maybe she can, voice her concerns, and you guys can take it to the committee.
One of the things, and maybe we'll send a reminder out to all of our committees. I know that I believe it was DAC that shared a similar concern
Yes.
recently, and we want to make sure that we give our committees the opportunity to really chew on information and before they're making a recommendation or a decision. And sometimes we don't do that, but I'll remind staff liaisons to make sure that they're able to give those committees ample time.
And on January 17th, we're having a workshop, and part of that workshop, we will be discussing advisory boards as well. So if anyone has information, make sure we get it before we do that workshop, so we have your input as well as to how we can improve. We can only improve with information from everybody, and including the community as well. Thank you all for your input and for participating in public comment. It is an important thing to us, and we do take your comments to heart. Next, we will move on to consent items to be voted on. Approval, next is the approval of action items in the agenda under consent. So if all the board members can take a look at that. The documentation for action items listed under consent is made available to the board members 7 business days prior to the board meeting. We're expected to review all the material, and we have an opportunity to speak with the superintendent with any questions we may have regarding the recommendations. Some of these items have also been briefed or workshopped, and the board in advance, with the board in advance of appearing on the action agenda. Board members, are there any agenda items you wish to pull for discussion under unfinished business or tabled items in this portion? Are there any pulls?
I have none this evening.
I have none.
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
I have none.
Okay, thank you. There are no pulls, so if there's a motion to approve the agenda's consent action items with no pulls, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Fisher moved and seconded by Ms. Vaughn. And please record your vote. Is everybody logged in?
Oh, I got it now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, it's unanimous. And I would just tell the audience, we are not unique with this. I've watched several board meetings from all over the state, and when they do the vote, the crickets are busy. So we are not unique in this. So that's what one of our students in the high school technology programs could come up with, a way to make this like instantaneous. That would be wonderful.
Ms. Giddens, just for the record, just state that the motion carried 7-0.
Okay, the motion does carry 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay, unfinished business, we don't have any polls, so Dr. Atkins, please read your well, we don't have any of those, so we will
So if I
move.
could just,
Do you have something?
with the consent agenda, we did approve a personnel recommendation, and I wanted to recognize that person now,
Okay,
if that's okay.
that's fine.
Amy Carroll, Food and Nutrition Services, from a supervisor to coordinator, Food and Nutrition Services.
Is she with us tonight?
And
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Are there any other
Thank
items?
you.
Okay. Okay, we're on to the next part. All right, we are on to other business, board members' comments and recommendations, and reports, I'm sorry. And we'll start with Ms. Fisher.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome back to semester 2. I know great things will happen. We have an amazing cadre of colleagues in our schools and in our departments, and I'm looking forward to a very successful semester. Thank you for what you do. That's it.
Ms. Giovanelli?
Happy New Year. I did go to Tallahassee and that for the inauguration, and that was actually a really great experience, my first. So we had some really great kids. They were all really good. So that was a highlight of my last 2 days. I'm just coming back from there. So thank you.
Okay. Ms. Patrica?
I'm sad that Mr. Stewart left because I would like to invite him directly and anybody else that wishes to join us in Tallahassee or join us in local meetings with our delegation to please advocate on behalf of our students. I think the impact of advocacy from private citizens is stronger than it is when it comes from a school board member. So I will get in touch with Mr. Stewart, and I'm quite certain that he will join us in anything we ask him to do. But I would like to see Mr. Stewart be the beginning of an army of advocacy on behalf of our community. That's the first thing. And the second thing is I'd like to just remind you before the end of the meeting if we could determine whether we're going to hold pluses and deltas after the meeting.
I'll put it down at the end. Okay, Ms. Jordan?
I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and we're excited about the upcoming year. Wanted to tell Mr. Thomas, thank you for doing what you did for the children. Ms. Ware, I appreciate everything that you do and look forward to working with you. Ms. Salas, we are definitely going to be looking at doing exactly what you just said. So we're going to get into what the committee wants versus a lot of stuff that you really don't want. And Mr. Stewart, I believe, joined us at the meeting that we had at the Bonita School.
He was there.
Yes, and he's a wealth of information. And that's all I have to say. Just looking forward to this year.
Okay, Ms. Vaughn?
Again, Happy New Year to everybody, and I wish everybody, especially those of you that work in the school district, a happy, healthy second semester. Also, I was particularly pleased to hear Mr. Dangler talking about, and I guess he's not here anymore, talking about the arts as a former English literature teacher and a lover of the arts. Always, I like to use the term STEAM instead of STEM. And for anybody who doesn't know, that A, making STEM into STEAM, it includes the arts, because to be a well-rounded individual, and remember, we are teaching the whole child, I think we need to have the children at all ages involved in some form of the arts, which, by the way, as Mr. Dengler pointed out, is closely aligned with, if you look at your gifted, talented students, most of them are involved heavily in the arts. We appreciate all of you who speak, and in case some of you have any doubts at all, we do listen and take heed in what you say. Thank you. That's it.
Ms. Morgan?
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for speaking. I do want to comment to Mr. Getz that I'm sure that Dr. Pruitt will be talking with him about some of the recommendations he made for alerting guest teachers to procedures and allocated spaces in-house. So thank you for coming and making that comment. I also want to express my great appreciation to Sam Stewart, and I'm sorry he's not here because he has become a terrific advocate for Lee County schools. He was active in the sales tax initiative. He comes from a high-performing school district. To have him talk about how he views the superintendent and the work of the governance team is great validation for the work that we're trying to do and the things we're trying to accomplish. And Patty, I agree with you. We always have these conversations about advisory committees and what's the balance between information and input. And so any suggestions you may have with respect to that, one of the things that I know we talked about for DAC a while ago was, should we provide all of the information apart from the meeting, before the meeting, as part of the agenda, and then allow for essentially not presentation, but conversation during the advisory committee meeting. So I'm interested in your thoughts about that, but that is something else for another time. So thank you all for being here.
Okay, and Ms. Sanchez, we thank you for being here, and would you like to give some comments as to how you felt about your experience?
It was definitely a new experience. I have been doing performances, so I have been in front of a crowd, but not in a professional way. I liked my experience here. I get to know other people's opinions and some things I didn't know that was actually happening. So I was actually learning a lot through the public comments.
Okay.
And I believe that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And in my comments, I did want to mention there are some upcoming delegation meetings, I believe with the Lee County delegation. And if you guys watch the our website to make sure what events are coming up and to be able to participate in them. And I wanted to make a comment. This afternoon, we did a briefing in preparation for our strategic plan, our accreditation. And one of the questions we went back and forth about was opportunity versus involvement of the community in what we're doing. And there were a lot of different, responses and thoughts as to what that meant. Opportunity means we have the opening, the opportunity, the door is open for you to participate. If we need to do that in a different way or do it in a way that's more amicable to have more of you involved, then we need to know how to do that. And we would appreciate your comments and suggestions on that as well. And when that happens, we would love to have as much as possible, as many as possible in the community to participate. I've watched some board meetings of some schools and boards, and there are a lot of people in the audience. And sometimes we have just the people that are speaking. And I say to people all the time, if you are not a part of the process and know what's going on, then it's difficult to come and say, this isn't happening or that isn't happening. You have the opportunity, and I'm just suggesting that everyone participate. Not just parents, but everyone in the community. And we're going to do our best to expand that as much as often as possible and as often as possible. We are having on the 17th of January a workshop. Our workshops are televised, yes? Will that one?
That would be recorded and
That will be
later available online.
And later available. If you are available and interested, you can also come and sit in. There are no public comments during that time. Those are the times that we have time to discuss things, and you get to know who we are and what we are about as well. So look on your calendars, try to attend some of those, and if not, they're always available to watch on our YouTube live channel. I think that's all. One thing I wanted to bring up before your comments, the Plus Delta meeting, and we hadn't discussed whether we were going to have it this evening before they have their comments, and I'm going to take the liberty of saying, shall we do a thumb up approval as to whether we will have the Plus Delta this evening? All those in favor of having it, thumbs up.
I would like to see it, if the door was open and just go right back there instead of, and it's just open to the room. That would be my preference.
Okay. Well, we do have consensus to have it, so if we can arrange, and I totally agree with that comment, I think having to go and maneuver around to another area is not, optimal. So if we could open up that room, I think that's D, that if we can have someone open it up and have the Plus Delta there, then we will adjourn to that. Mr. Dodick, your comments?
None tonight, thank you.
Okay. Superintendent?
Just a brief one. Wanted to make you aware that we've been in recent conversation with the Department of Education relative to the DA status of East Lee County High School. As you know, East Lee County High School needs to be a C this year or higher. We had requested an extension, and we are, at this time, we've not had that extension granted. However, as you may recall, I have made 2 trips over the years to request that extension go through. We've been successful. I did talk to Melissa Ramsey, she's in charge of school improvement, and we'll be in conversation with her probably tomorrow in terms of whether or not I need to travel to Pensacola to make that request again. That is when the state board meets, and I will keep you informed as to the outcome there. So we did submit our information in November. We met the timeline in November 1, but we've also submitted further documentation regarding specifically teachers and needs improvement, unsatisfactory, effective, highly effective, which is required, and we'll keep you posted there. So again, she did, remember, there's been quite a significant change in leadership up in Tallahassee. We have a new commissioner. We also learned that the chancellor has retired, and so this is, it's a brand new team. So the protocols or the way that they operate may be different. But the great news around all this is that she is, Mrs. Ramsey, very, very pleased with the progress of that school. She feels confident that she says the gains are great. The graduation rate made a tremendous jump this past year. And she said, if you had that graduation number, you wouldn't even be in DA status if you had this year's graduation number counted. So she is very confident. However, we do feel that they're on the right track, and therefore an extension would be warranted. I will keep you posted. We'll know more tomorrow about whether or not I need to go up there and plead our case.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder again that on Thursday, January 17th, we'll have a board workshop, and there are several issues that would be discussed there. On Tuesday, January the 22nd, there will be a board briefing meeting and a regular school board meeting at 6 o'clock.
There'll also be a special meeting on the 17th, which you scheduled this afternoon, so.
After, I thought it was a portion of the.
No, it's scheduled for 4 o'clock after the workshop.
Okay, so there will be another meeting then. So the 17th will be busy. If you're available, tune in. And just as the superintendent was saying, there's, with changes in leadership, we have quite a change in leadership, but with 3 new members of the board this year. So we are in the process of forming and getting ourselves all together and getting to know each other and doing what's best for the children of Lee County. And we work pretty hard at doing that. So all of these people up here put in a lot of time and hours to make sure that we do the right thing for the students. And if nothing else, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Ms. Giovanelli, seconded by Ms. Jordan. And please record your vote. And it's unanimous 7-0. We will be adjourning this meeting and going to room D, which will be right here, for our pluses and deltas. That is where we discuss things that we feel are necessary to get out to the other members regarding the meeting and future things, since we work under sunshine law. Thank you so much for coming, everyone, and we'll see you either in the back or next meeting.